Dean Martin destroyed Jerry Lewis with one phone call. What he said changed everything, they say. The funniest men are the loneliest inside. But on July 24th, 1956, the laughter died forever. Not on stage, not in front of cameras, but in a cramped dressing room on the Paramount lot, where two brothers who had conquered the world with their comedy were about to destroy each other with their truth. Dean Martin set down his cigarette, looked Jerry Lewis dead in the eye, and said 5 words that would end the most successful comedy partnership in Hollywood history. What he said next wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. It was devastating. And it would haunt Jerry Lewis for the next 60 years. The room was thick with cigarette smoke and tension. Outside, crew members were setting up for another day of filming The Stooge. But inside dressing room B, a war was about to begin. Jerry Lewis stood by the mirror, applying his stage makeup with shaking hands. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed from another sleepless night. For months, he had been hearing the whispers. Dean wants out. Dean's tired of being the straight man. Dean thinks he's bigger than the act. Dean Martin sat in the corner, perfectly groomed, perfectly calm, sipping coffee from a china cup like he didn't have a care in the world. He had been watching Jerry for 20 minutes, saying nothing, just observing with those heavy-lidded eyes that had charmed millions of women and intimidated countless men. Jerry finally broke the suffocating silence that had been building between them like a wall of ice. "Say something, Dean. Anything. This silence is killing me." Dean took a long, deliberate drag of his Lucky Strike, exhaled slowly toward the ceiling, and looked at his partner of 10 years through the haze of smoke. "What do you want me to say, Jer? I want you to tell me this is all garbage. I want you to tell me we're solid. I want you to tell me that what I'm hearing from agents and studio executives is just Hollywood gossip designed to destroy us." Dean didn't answer immediately. He studied Jerry's face in the mirror, seeing the desperation etched in every line, the fear swimming in those wide eyes, the pathetic need for validation that had always made Dean uncomfortable. Jerry Lewis was the most insecure man Dean had ever met, and that insecurity had been both his greatest asset as a performer and his most exhausting quality as a human being. "You really want to know what I think?" Dean's voice was soft, almost gentle, but Jerry knew that tone. It was the voice Dean used right before he delivered a killing blow during their comedy routines, the voice that meant someone was about to get hurt. "Yeah, I want to know. I need to know." Dean stood up slowly, straightened his perfectly pressed tie, and walked over to where Jerry was sitting like a man approaching a condemned prisoner. He placed a hand on Jerry's shoulder, and for a moment Jerry thought everything was going to be okay, that whatever poison had been building between them could be drained away with honest conversation. Then Dean spoke, and Jerry's world began to crumble. "I think you're a frightened little boy who never grew up. I think you need me more than you need air, and I think that's your problem, not mine." Jerry's face went white as printer paper. He turned in his chair to face Dean, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means," Dean said, removing his hand from Jerry's shoulder like he was touching something contaminated, "that I'm tired of carrying you. I'm tired of being your security blanket. I'm tired of watching you panic every time you have to do something without me holding your hand like you're a child." The words hit Jerry like physical blows to the solar plexus. These weren't just insults thrown in anger. They were Dean's deepest thoughts, thoughts he had apparently been harboring and nurturing for years. Jerry stood up, his face flushing red with humiliation and rage. "Carrying me? Carrying me? Dean, I'm the one who makes them laugh. I'm the reason they buy tickets. I'm the one who creates the characters, who comes up with the bits, who makes the magic happen. You just stand there and look pretty while I do all the work." Dean smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was cold, predatory, the smile of a shark circling wounded prey. "Is that what you think? That's what I know. That's what the whole world knows." Dean walked to the window, looked out at the bustling studio lot where extras in period costumes hurried between sound stages, and then turned back to Jerry with the slow, calculated movement of an executioner. What happened next would be burned into Jerry Lewis's memory forever, replayed in his nightmares for the rest of his life. "Jerry," Dean said, his voice eerily calm, like a doctor delivering a terminal diagnosis. "You want to know what you are to me? You're a prop. A very loud, very annoying prop that I've been dragging around for 10 years. You think people come to see Jerry Lewis? They come to see the freak show? They come to see the monkey dance while the organ grinder collects the coins." Jerry's mouth fell open. The cruelty of the words was breathtaking. "Dean, don't what? Don't tell you the truth? Don't say what everyone in this town has been thinking for years?" "The truth is, I've been planning this conversation for 2 years. The truth is, I've already met with agents behind your back. I've already got film deals lined up, solo deals. Because the truth is, Jerry, I don't need you anymore. But I need you." The words came out as a whisper, and Jerry immediately regretted saying them. He had revealed his greatest weakness to the one person who could use it to destroy him completely. Dean's expression softened slightly, but not with kindness, with pity. The kind of pity you might feel for a wounded animal that needed to be put out of its misery. "I know you do, and that's exactly why this has to end, because your need is suffocating me." Jerry was crying now. Not the exaggerated tears he used in his comedy routines, but real tears of genuine anguish streaming down his pale cheeks. "We're brothers, Dean. We've been through everything together. Remember when we started at the 500 Club? Remember when we couldn't afford decent suits? Remember when—" "No, Jerry. We've been business partners. There's a difference. Brothers don't calculate every conversation. Brothers don't keep score of who gets more laughs." Dean walked to the door, then stopped, and turned back one final time, his hand on the brass doorknob. "I'll finish this picture because I honor my contracts, but after that, we're done. My attorney will call your attorney, and we'll make it official, clean, professional." Jerry grabbed Dean's arm desperately. "Wait, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can take a break. Maybe do separate projects for a while and then come back together. Anything? I'll do anything." Dean looked down at Jerry's hand on his arm, then looked into Jerry's eyes with the cold stare of a stranger. "Let go of me, Jerry." "Dean, please." "I said let go." Jerry released his grip, and Dean straightened his jacket with the same care he used to adjust his tuxedo before walking on stage. "You want some advice? Grow up. Learn to stand on your own 2 feet, because starting tomorrow, you're going to have to." Dean opened the door and walked out, leaving Jerry alone in the dressing room that suddenly felt like a tomb. Jerry collapsed into his chair, put his head in his hands, and sobbed. Outside, crew members heard the crying through the thin walls, but no one dared to enter. Everyone on the lot knew that something momentous had just ended. That night, Jerry sat in his Beverly Hills mansion, staring at the telephone like it was a snake that might strike. The house felt enormous and empty around him. Every shadow seemed to mock his loneliness. His wife Patty had tried to comfort him, bringing him coffee, rubbing his shoulders, whispering reassurances that this would all blow over, but he was inconsolable. The mansion that had once felt like a palace now felt like a mausoleum. He kept replaying the conversation, trying to understand how his best friend, his brother, his other half, had become his executioner. Every cruel word echoed in his mind like a broken record. The clock on the mantel ticked away the seconds with the persistence of water torture. At 11:30, the phone rang like a gunshot in the silence. Jerry lunged for it, hoping against hope that it was Dean calling to apologize, to say he had been angry and hadn't meant any of it. "Hello? Jerry, it's Dean." Jerry's heart jumped like he'd been given electric shock treatment. "Dean, thank God. Listen, about today—" "Jerry, stop. I'm not calling to apologize. I'm calling to make sure you understand that I meant every word. Every single word." Jerry's blood ran cold. "What?" "I called Paramount tonight. I told them I'm walking away from the partnership after we finish this picture. I also called the William Morris Agency and told them to start negotiating my solo contract. The contracts are being drawn up as we speak. You can't do this to me, Dean. We have commitments. We have fans who love us together. We have nothing, Jerry. We never did. It was all just business, money changing hands." There was a long, agonizing pause. Jerry could hear Dean breathing on the other end of the line, could hear the clink of ice in a glass. Dean was having a drink, probably celebrating his freedom. "Dean, I'm begging you. Don't do this. I'll change. I'll be different. You'll what? Stop being Jerry Lewis? It's too late for that. Why are you doing this to me?" Dean's voice became very quiet, very cold, like winter wind through a cemetery. "Because you did it to yourself. You made me hate you, Jerry. Every day, a little more, until I couldn't stand the sight of you. Congratulations. It takes real talent to make someone who loved you learn to despise you." Jerry was sobbing into the phone now, his tears falling onto the expensive Persian rug beneath his feet. "I never knew. I never knew you felt that way. You never said anything. You never gave me a chance to change. Of course you didn't know. You were too busy thinking about Jerry Lewis to notice anyone else existed. I can change? I swear to God I can change? No, you can't. And even if you could, I wouldn't want you to. I want you exactly the way you are, Jerry. Alone." Dean hung up. Jerry held the phone to his ear for another 5 minutes, listening to the dial tone, hoping Dean would call back, hoping this was all just another one of their elaborate practical jokes. But the phone never rang again. The next morning, the trade papers ran the story. Martin and Lewis split. The headline sent shockwaves through Hollywood and around the world. Their partnership had made over $50 million in 10 years. They were the biggest comedy act in the world, bigger than Abbott and Costello, bigger than any comedy team in history. But it was over. Jerry Lewis never spoke to Dean Martin again, not at industry events where they would catch glimpses of each other across crowded rooms. Not at funerals of mutual friends where they sat on opposite sides of chapels like warring families. Not even when they were both dying old men who might have found comfort in forgiveness. The wound was too deep, the betrayal too complete, the silence too heavy to break after decades of careful avoidance. Dean went on to become exactly what he had predicted: a major movie star, a recording artist, a member of the Rat Pack, a legend. He proved that he had never needed Jerry Lewis. But late at night, in quiet moments, friends would catch him staring into his drink with an expression of profound regret. Jerry continued performing, made movies, hosted telethons, won awards, but he never got over that phone call. In interviews for the next 60 years, he would break down crying whenever anyone asked him about Dean. The man who had made millions laugh never stopped crying over the friend who had destroyed him with 5 simple words: "I don't need you anymore." Reporters learned to avoid the subject entirely. It was too painful to watch. In 1995, when Dean Martin died, Jerry Lewis was not invited to the funeral. He sat in his home in Las Vegas, watching the news coverage on a small television, weeping for the brother who had never forgiven him for needing to be loved. The cameras showed Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. carrying the casket, showed celebrities paying their respects, showed a world mourning the loss of an icon. But Jerry wasn't there. He would never be there again. Some partnerships end with a handshake. Some end with lawyers. But the greatest comedy partnership in history ended with a phone call that lasted 3 minutes and destroyed a man's soul forever. Dean Martin had gotten exactly what he wanted, his freedom. And Jerry Lewis had learned exactly what that freedom cost. Everything he had ever believed about love, loyalty, and brotherhood.